through, and you're very aware that your time's up and you need to get everything finished. But today, I think we've been really good at consistently putting together good-looking shots and shots that are working together. We've got plenty of coverage of the whole scene.
Definitely, there has been a massive improvement in this group. This group for me was the group I was most worried about, because there was a complete mixed bag. There were kids that were very unconfident, literally had no confidence at all, and then there were kids that sort of dominated the class because they were, very vocal, and I think that sometimes scared the other students into saying anything. I think with this process, because you've looked at people as individuals and because they've all had their individual parts in it, it's allowed them to become a main role, whereas they might not always do so. And although there's still the people that are more confident than others, I feel like the ones that never really have a shot at being the main part have really come out of their shell. And their last mock exam that they did, there was definitely the students that were the least confident before have definitely improved in terms of their attainment. And I think it's because they feel like they can do things and they can actually do something where they're the focus, the main point.
I don't think, even the performance I was doing and the way I looked and stuff, I still don't like it, but it's like something to be proud of.
I think I actually have. I mean, I still talk a bit fast from time to time, but I do try to stop doing that, and this kind of made that happen.
I went along to see some of this in action, and that young lad at the end there, Kyle, when I saw what he'd put into evaluation, it really brought a lump to my throat, because he's a very there's a very difficult time. He was getting mercilessly bullied at that school, and they wanted to do their film about bullying. Although that doesn't particularly look like it's about bullying, it looks like Santa's jumping in pools. It is about celebrating difference, about celebrating also the things that we have in common. And for him to say that his speech impediment has actually changed as a result of that, I found truly sort of moving. And he's a really lovely lad that's really struggling. As I said, this isn't the most perfect project that's ever been. There are, I'm sure, examples out there that will make this look extremely amateur, but for those young people in Grimsby, for whom no one has ever been, no one's ever gone down there. And I thought it was interesting what Tracy, the teacher, said about you see them as individuals. I don't think for a minute she was suggesting that she didn't, but just having, if nothing else in a partnership, there are two of you with them, or three of you, or five of you, or whatever it may be, which means that you get that time to find those individuals, to work, to just spend that little bit more time getting the performance out of them, if it's a performance piece, for instance. So I really think that the value of the mutual learning triangle there is clear for all to see, and I hope you can as well. The final thing, of course, which is the stumbling block, is the funding, and pupil premium is the obvious sort of pot that schools have at the moment, and that's definitely something that can be explored and possibly exploited, if you forgive the cynicism, but there's definitely things there, but there are lots of opportunities elsewhere. This here, I'll put the link on at the end. When schools sign up for ArtsMark, which is one of our measures, there are various special offers that they get with certain providers. That's particularly in Yorkshire and Humber. But Curious Minds, the Arts Council Bridge in North West, do a similar thing, I think, as do North East. It's called North East, aren't they?
St. Gateshead, I think it is. Oh, there it was. Yeah, North East Bridge.
North East Bridge. But there's also these. The Awards for All is still there. Up to £10,000 from the Arts Council. There are specific criteria to meet, but it's not that difficult. I did it some years ago and got £5,000 again to make a film. but they are there. MPOs, so your national portfolio organisations, like the BLAS, like Junction at Gould. Junction did all of that funding. They wrote into their Arts Council funding that they would spend however many X thousand pounds it was on this community project. So the primary school, apart from a bit of, I think transport, there was a bit of in-kind funding, but generally speaking, they didn't pay a penny for that, and yet these students got this really profound experience. So make connections with those MPOs. If they don't know who they are, then we will find them for you. We have got a database with every single school and every single arts provider. So come through us, and we'll help you find them. Some arts organisations, they spend their life finding funds. So if you want to do something, but you haven't got any money, you don't know where it's going to come from, start that dialogue. They will be.
I didn't realise how desperate artists, arts organisations are to work with schools. It's part of their remit, it's part of their responsibility. When I was in school, I just didn't realise that they are absolutely desperate. More so, I mean, there are a lot of arts organisations that will have their product that they will offer you. But more and more, we are trying to train artists and art organisations that they need to work in partnership with you to collate and create something that is of benefit to you. So, if you want to know who, come to us, we can help you with that, and we can also broker that sort of dialogue that actually gets you exactly what you want. In 4 minutes, you came up with 3 or 4 really potentially good projects that will actually answer a problem that you have or a challenge that you have in school. This type of thing, funding shouldn't be a barrier.
And it's very interesting that all the teachers in the pairings were presented with a very real problem. And so often we feel the pressure to solve that problem on our own, and if we don't, it's a failing on us. Wow, where was it? I'm a drama teacher, I've got to get A-level numbers up, I've got to get all of my maths students, my results are disappointed, this is my problem. Well, okay, but do you have to suffer in silence? You just have to bash them over the head with, there are people out there with very sort of creative solutions, and I promise you, students will appreciate it, but I think so will you. It's the CPD for you. That's something different happening, and for a few sort of phone calls, a few emails to get that thing off the ground. Often these arts organisations will do most of the legwork for you. The final one is a bit vague, but it's very true, and it will depend on the region. There'll be regeneration trusts, there'll be local organisations, charities, whatever, with a £500 there, a couple of £1,000 there. Again, they're just waiting to give it out. I heard this. For me, this was a tragic story. I suppose in the context of world events, it's not that tragic. But there was a woman in Grimsby, and she runs Grimsby Jazz, which is an annual festival. She had funding for 8 projects in schools, and she couldn't get into the schools. And for me, that's just heartbreaking. Here was this thing that had already been funded. All she had to do was get the yes. So again, that's where we can come in. I said to her, right, next time, come and get in touch with us and we will get you in. Because we know that the problem is not the classroom teachers, it's the system where things get held up, or it goes to the wrong person, it goes to someone in admin who doesn't know who to pass it on to, whatever it may be. So we can broker those relationships.
We will be running some workshops next academic year in terms of writing bids for funds.
And I think it's important to say, it feels a bit odd. Drew and I are both former teachers, so it feels a little bit odd doing the kind of the corporate line, CapeUK. We're a charity. We're not. This isn't a profit organisation, so we're not here trying to sell you, come on to Cape and life will be never the same again. We are actually saying what our passion is to make brilliant learning experiences in the arts.
I'm a charity case. I'm CapeUK, the charity. I'm the case.
Can I just ask something about the Arts Council funding?
Yes.
We apply often for Arts Council funding. We get a lot of ours grants for the arts rather than awards. We've accessed that stream before.
Yeah.
There's something particular that you need to consider around the Arts Council in that they do fund work with schools, but they don't fund work whereby the outcome is something that should be covered by the educational system itself. So if your outcome is here, like to achieve better progress in maths, they won't fund work where that's the outcome. They might fund something whereby it's about participation in museums, say, if that's what you're looking at. But you need to think quite carefully about actually what the outcomes of your project are, because if it's something that education should be achieving without that, then they can't fund that.
The awards for all's remit is around. They do often fund schools, but it is in relationship to something to do with community, some aspect, some element of community.
But that's where I think the agenda of the artist is important as well, because you're absolutely right. It's very important, but it's very easy to just shape the application.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what you're doing, isn't it? Because they know what's happening, and it would make no sense, would it, for an artistic partnership with schools to not have some kind of scholastic outcomes. But obviously, it's the other outcomes that you highlight: the development of the whole person, the community links, whatever it might be. I was going to say, Nick. So, thank you very much.
Just one little thing. It's got nothing to do with what Dave said. But he mentioned before about the process of learning. Changing your objective to how to. So the children today are learning how to. Change your whole way that you have to think about the planning, about your approach, so that you focus on the process of learning rather than the product. If you're being observed or you've got Ofsted in, then your outcomes are very different, and you can be judged in a very different way. I don't know why I'm saying that, but it just occurred to me when you were talking about the process before. Change your objectives to how to.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does everybody know where the pin is? From here? Excellent. Yeah.